Hello chickies and welcome to the Fully Booked Penguin channel. I am Hannah and today I am doing my July reading wrap up. We have been in this locale before, but I'm trying to avoid lawnmower sounds. However, I don't think there's really any avoiding it where I still get good lighting. So if you can hear the mower, unfortunately I can't do anything about it. So onto books. I did read 9 books this month. One has been going over for like a year. Me and my dad have been reading it together, so it's taken a very long time. But the other 8 were all off my TBR. I had my 8 books on my TBR and I completed it. It's the first time in a while, so I'm happy. Everyone's happy. We did it. We actually achieved the goal for once. Since I succeeded, we will get into our books. I don't know quite what order we're going to do this in. One I haven't even reviewed on Goodreads yet, so I'll have to wing that one. So we had a mix of fantasy, historical, and classics this month. And we're going to start with one of the classics. Why not? Anne of Ingleside by L.M. Montgomery. This is the 6th book in the Anne of Green Gables series. This is a historical fiction and it's a classic. So in this one we are following Anne and she is an adult now. So rather than the middle grade vibes you get in book 1, we are adults now. We are going through adult problems, but in saying that, we actually get more childlike stuff in this one because we're with Anne's children as well. And so we get our little troops going through life. They're just as imaginative and chaotic as their mother. So it makes for a nice dynamic. You're seeing how Anne is sort of influencing, and you see Anne in the kids a lot. You also see a little bit of Gilbert, but Gilbert, here's an interesting one. There is one of the kids that's meant to be more like him, but you don't really see it in this. But then, of course, Gilbert is a bit of a workaholic in this one. He's just trying to do his best by his patients. Unfortunately, that does mean his family gets tired, exhausted, Gilbert. The thing I love about the Anne books is it's really a character study of people. That's what a character study is. It shows so many sides of people that you could find in your everyday life. I find some of the character traits in my family, in people I've known. And so it's really intriguing. It's really lifelike, but it does have that sort of chaotic, imaginative, whimsy feel to them at the same time. And of course, it's all bundled in the comfort and love that Anne gives. I did cry with this one. I was so sad at points. Not that anything sad, like the previous book was probably sadder than this one, but my little heart went out. I love children. They're such a blessing that they have their own quirks. And I do happen to know the future of several of these kids, and it was maybe playing into it as well as the other emotions that were triggered, that were brought up, because it is so very real life. But I loved every step. There were a few moments in it that I did take half a star off of, just some of the language. It is a product of the time, so that's why I only took half a star off. And as much as I love these characters, there are also some really annoying characters in it and really like slight bullying of the kids, and I'm just there really wanting to go in and whack some sense into people, which I know is probably incorrect. I did at times want to go and fight for my Blythe family. I really did. I wanted to go in and protect and attack and stand up for the children and Anne at times. So I was like, let me in. If Gilbert's not going to do anything, I'm going to come in. Okay, I'm going to do it. Of course I couldn't because this is a fictional book, but in my little head I had to take a pause and just think about how these evil people would get their comeuppance. And then I would continue on and I'll continue crying my little eyes out. On Goodreads it's a 5, but yeah, I do take that half star off just for some of the content. So it's 5 star for feel and 4.5 for content. I absolutely recommend, especially if you're older than the middle grade, to read the later books because they are so good. I am almost 30 at the point of this filming, and I absolutely, like, my inner child relates to the first Anne books, but my adult heart and soul relates to the ones after. Less so the Anne of the Island, but when I was a teenager in my love stage, I absolutely ate up Anne of the Island. And now as an adult, I'm like, oh, that was awkward. But I did love it at the time, where Anne is roughly the same age, so it makes sense. Again, character study of girls that age. But yeah, I absolutely love this series and recommend you read the later ones, not just the first one. Now, with these first 3 books that I'm doing, I actually do have a reading vlog for, but it's sort of wrapped up in with life and stuff. So if you want to go watch that, you can, but otherwise this is the review. I go into similar topics and things in this video, but just in case you want to go see life vlog, that is available to you. So next up we have the Between-Worlds B&B by Amy Mae Baxter. This is a cozy fantasy, and it's got a little smidge of romance in there too. This story follows Margot, and Margot is a almost graduate of high school, I believe. And so or college, they called it college. Around the world, college means different things. So high school in Australia speak. She's about to graduate and she doesn't know what she's going to do with her life, and she is bored during the summer holidays and she works at a pool. And she goes home, but she's locked out because her mum has gone to late work and she only has £25 to her name. And she's like, well, I don't know what this will get me, but I'll have to go find a hotel somewhere. But as she walks, she sort of stumbles across a B&B, which is offering a room for exactly what's in her bank account. Mysterious. Anyway, she goes in, she meets the receptionist. She finds him handsome, of course, but he's also a little standoffish and weird. And then she gets led to her room, and she finds that weird as well. But she has signed a contract, she's in, and she has the best sleep of her life. However, when she gets up the next morning, she tries to go, but she ends up at breakfast, and they're like, oh yeah, you can't leave. And that's where our journey begins, because the people at this B&B, they're weird, they're wacky, there might be a secret behind this B&B. I actually quite enjoyed my time at the B&B. Did I enjoy Margot at first? No. She is a teenager. So she's very almost selfish, almost just bullheaded about certain things in a kind of a bored, I'm too cool for this, but also I'm intrigued kind of way. So she's very teenager like that. And so she's a bit off-putting. But I didn't hate her. But I couldn't fully attach because she is slightly unique. But so is everyone else in this book. And I like the stories. It was just very lighthearted, very chill. And the romance is pretty instant attraction, and they attach themselves pretty quickly. So then it's more of a will we get together or won't we, rather than a developing of that relationship. And then we also have the Inn, which is my favorite character. Spoilers, the Inn might be semi-sentient. And it reminded me a lot of Diana Wynne Jones's House of Many Ways, where the house is sort of quirky as well. I love that. So that's a recommendation if you do enjoy this one, or if you enjoy House of Many Ways. The characters slightly have the same quirk, and also the slightly sentient house as well. A bit of magic going on there. Was it the most amazing book? No. But I did enjoy the interactions with the other characters. They weren't just tons of characters there for the sake of being characters there. They each had their different interactions and sort of semi-storyline going on as well, which I enjoyed. They weren't just thrown in for the sake of having mystical beings. So I ended up giving this book a 4 stars. I had fun, and that's really all I was looking for. And it is a cozy fantasy, so you're not looking for anything super adventurous or any super complex prose or anything like that. And yeah, so I gave it a 4 stars. It was enjoyable. So the next book I read was The Fur Trader's Lady by Gabrielle Meyer. This is the first book in the Ladies of Wilderness series. Now, I will disclaim that when I first read the blurb, I already knew I might not like this book for a certain plot point. And we'll get into that in a second. This is about Charlotte, and she is being forced into a marriage by her guardian, who is a creepy man and may be seeking to have his way with her before they're even wed. Anyway, there's a couple within the house, an older couple, and they help Charlotte escape, and she goes to Canada in search of her fiance arranged through letters, who happens to be their son. And so she sets off for Canada to find him, and he has said, listen, this man owes me a favor. If you talk to him, he'll escort you into the area and we can get married so that you can keep your fortune and this creepy guardian can be off your back. So that's when she meets Reed, and they set off to go across this area where European women aren't allowed in. So she has to disguise as his clerk or clerk. And of course, during the journey, attachments may attach themselves and different duties may make that problematic, as well as back and forth because of other, duties that have previously been put in place. And also because she is still being chased by her evil guardian man. I've got to admit, I almost DNF'd this book at several points. But I knew from reviews that people are like, oh, you have to actually read the end. It's not as bad as you think, etc., etc. It all makes sense in the end. And so I felt like I couldn't do my review until I knew all the facts too. And so I pushed through out of duty, and it didn't get better, it only got worse, unfortunately. Plus, the audiobook was actually fun. Our male narrator put on a Scottish accent. It was fun to listen to. But I think the main issue is I never fully attached or could support or root for our main couple. And it is very quickly physical based. Our main character, Charlotte, she even sketches him half undressed. And she goes on about wanting to touch him, and he's going on about physically attractions too, which I know happens. We get attracted to people, I get it. However, they never challenge that lustfulness, and they are technically otherwise dutified to other things. I just wish they developed more of a character connection and like a relationship through mutual trust and sort of support, rather than instantly they are attracted to each other and then they talk about how they have this deep-seated trust and reliance on each other, but you never see the building of that. It's just they talk about it and they got this instant connection, except you don't see any reason why they should have that connection other than ooh la la, they're fine. And I know it's part of the storytelling to have no communication nowadays. However, everything that was a really big challenge in this could have been solved if they acted on this supposed reliance, trust of each other, and actually talked, especially from Charlotte. If she just spoke and was honest, easy fix to pretty much all of the challenges in this book. And the thing is, it doesn't take that much smarts to figure it out either. You can pretty much figure a solution immediately without having to do what she did. And same with the cheating aspect in it. There is cheating. And I was okay to a certain point where boundaries had been crossed, but it could be all smoothed out with an honest, upfront conversation. That never happened, and that is where I consider the full brunt of the infidelity / unfaithfulness comes in. So yes, I do consider that there is a cheating plot in this, and thus I cannot recommend or like this book or couple, because because of this thing. Technically it gets smoothed out, but it's not through the integrity of the main character. Also, this is meant to be a Christian book. It has some prayer, and the main character isn't a sod. He has his convictions enough that he isn't sexually immoral. And that is pretty much all there is. Just a few moments where they're like, oh, I have a faith. Isn't that lovely? But really, their Christian faith comes into absolutely no other part of the story. So I wouldn't consider it a Christian book. They had faith themes, but they did not embody their Christian faith. So I ended up giving it a 2.5. It's probably more of a 2 for the book, but I added a 0.5 for the narration. Just nothing stood out enough for me to like the book. And then there was that really integral plot line that I felt could have worked if handled better, but I didn't feel it was handled well. And the relationship didn't really have any depth to it. And I just couldn't look past that fatal plot line. And I am glad I gave it a chance, because now I have all the clues, all the details, but at the same time, my judgment is still unknown. Alright, the next book we're going to do is A Lord of Mysteries, The Clown Part 2. This is the second volume in the Lord of Mysteries series. It's a very long, light novel. It is volumes and volumes worth. I'm trying to get through the first section, which is the clown, and it is 3 this size book. I'm getting through this first section because it is slightly outside of my comfort zone, but I am enjoying it. But I'm trying to decide if I'm going to invest in this giant series, or whether I just read this first, the clown section, and let the rest go on without me. In this one, we're following Klein, who originally has a different name and was originally on Earth, but he ends up transmigrating into the body of Klein. And Klein has 2 siblings. He's in a steampunky sort of alternate Earth, but it's kind of historic, but you get hints that maybe things weren't always this way. And there have been other transmigrators before him that have left clues. And there's things like potions that you take and you become a Beyonder. But Beyonders have side effects, so you get these special powers and abilities. However, it can turn you into a monster. And there's a certain organization, like a police force, special force, that Klein joins in order to fight off like evil spirits and that sort of thing. And the reason he can join this group is because he has a experience with some evil spirits in a diary. And so he and his colleagues unfortunately died, except that Klein didn't, because he got transmigrated into this body. So there are churches, there are organizations, there are those that are inherently evil and bad and considered dark ones, and then there's the churches that are trying to fight that. And yeah, it's different aspects like that, as well as they use things like divination and that to utilize their abilities. And of course, being a Christian, I wasn't sure how all those things would sit with my conscience. And I'm alright with it so far, because they don't make fun of Christianity. And really, they do just take from a bunch of real-world religions and smoosh it all together into a new magic system. So I pretty much see it all as fiction, which it is, it's fiction. But I'm glad that in their fiction, they're not poking fun at any religion or faith aspects. And I'm really happy that even the things that help Klein and these other Beyonders, they are clearly stated as double-edged. Like, used the wrong way, they are evil. Just as much as they can help, they can be evil too. So I appreciate that aspect of it. And it is a mystery, dark mystery, sort of thriller series, so there are dark moments. But it's all through this detective mystery. Because Klein is with this police organization, he's going on these different things to train, but also track down these different mysteries and happenings and to defeat the evil spirits and that sort of thing. This one was slightly darker in some aspects, but we're following Klein as he sort of levels up and gets more complex quests to go on, missions, and with other members of his party and different people he connects through, because he is trying to digest the potion he took fully, so he's going on these side quests as well. So it is fun to go on these different mysteries. It's fast paced because you're not on the same storyline. You are on the same storyline, obviously, but you get sections because you're doing these different mysteries or quests, and so it's quite fast paced. Klein is also the head of a new mysterious organization. So I do actually enjoy this series. I probably give this one the same as the first book, 4 stars. I love that Klein has this heart for people and helps out, and you have his different motivations too, but I enjoy his character. I do unfortunately think that Klein is being used. I think he's being manipulated behind the scenes, and he doesn't fully recognize it yet, because he keeps doing things that would definitely get the attention of the bad guys to him, but he thinks he's helping by using that, but it's actually attracting the wrong eyes at the same time, and he hasn't come to that realization yet, I don't think. So I am slightly concerned that things are going to go very downhill in the next book, but we are getting through it, and I do enjoy it, and I still haven't decided if we're going to continue on after this. I think it's an interesting lens because they have a lot of economic and political discussions in a fictional kind of sense, and I do enjoy a little bit of political / economic discussion in books, just a smidge, as long as it doesn't get too preachy, which this isn't preachy. This is just here's the little observations of the factories and the different states of the classes and that sort of thing. It's pretty fun in that aspect. Anyway, so Lord of the Mysteries is by Cuttlefish that loves diving. It is a strange author name, but I love it. And so yeah, this is Lord of Mysteries, The Clown Part 2 by Cuttlefish that loves diving, and I did give it 4 stars. Alright, I'm actually going to pair these next 2 books together. So we're going to start with The Charlotte Years by Melissa Wiley, and this is the second book in that series, and it is titled On Tide Mill Lane. This is in the Little House series, but it is prequels. It's all fiction. It's all made up, unlike the Laura books where she is taking from her own life experiences and telling us about it. This is completely fiction, made up, but based off Laura's grandmother, great-grandmother, and I believe her mother. I believe Caroline gets some years as well. In this one, we're in the town, of course. We're following Charlotte, so her parents are Martha and Lewis. Lewis is a blacksmith, and of course Martha is her mother. She does different things around the house, especially weaving, and Charlotte lives there with her 3 other siblings, so 2 boys and 1 girl. Oh, no. 4 other siblings. There is a child. There is a baby. This series, along with the Little House books, are perfect for parents reading to their children, so that kind of middle grade. It is a historical one, so you have different methods of life of back then. However, I do think it's best to do it with a parent because there's topics of war and death and losing friendships and all those sorts of things that you can have a little discussion about. If the kid is up for discussion, it might just take the story as it is, but I think there are moments where you can discuss. With this series, each chapter or so is sectioned off as a new story or a new thing that Charlotte is focusing on. Some of them do like mesh together, but most of the time it's a new story. I do think that Martha and Lewis, they should have gotten adult years books. I know it's a middle grade series, so nowadays middle grade and YA tend to focus on the main character has to be within that age range too, which I don't agree with, but that's a completely different discussion. And so having stories about Martha and Lewis when they're more grown up don't fit with the grade. However, I would have loved to see more of their love story and their journey from Scotland to America, because we get hints in this one, and it made me yearn for that story even more. But they have such a loving dynamic, and with the kids, and I love their little household. and the little different struggles and difficulties they go through, but overwhelmingly there's just the love of this family. And so yeah, I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 stars. It was fun. It was just really nice, and I loved the ending. If you read the ending, you know what it is. These are out of print though, so it's difficult for people to get them because you just can't buy them and you can't find them anywhere. Which is disappointing because I do enjoy the prequels probably more than the main series, at least the early ones in the main series. But yeah, 4 stars for that one. However, talking about the main series, the other book I read was By the Shores of Silver Lake, which is book 5 in the Little House series. And in this one, we're following Laura Ingalls with her family as they travel across and set up at different spots. And this time they're setting up on the shores of Silver Lake, and it goes through their different adventures or different happenings with their family at that spot. Like people coming in and claiming land, and Pa, you know, being late to claim land, but he manages to find a way. And so we get it all through Laura's point of view. And she's still a little bit of a scamp, but she is trying to mellow down into the more responsible role because, of course, Mary at this point is blonde. This series I'm reading with my dad, so we sit down and Dad reads it to me, and I love that time together. However, we do have our little comments and little fun moments, so I gave it a 4 stars. This one, I did like it more than the previous books. I love the house in the big woods, but the ones after that I haven't liked as much. Little House on the Prairie, On the Banks of Plum Creek. Farmer Boy is fun too. Farmer Boy that sits in there a little bit as well. This is probably my favourite since Farmer Boy. You do get a little Easter egg appearance from Farmer Boy, if you know who Farmer Boy is. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Pa does some unusual things. That family is strange. Probably wouldn't be how I operate, but you know, it's just little stories, and I just have the nostalgic reading experience with my dad reading it to me. I gave the book a 4 stars. As I say, there's different stories in there, different troubles, different challenges that the family face, but also Laura being just as adventurous and observant as she always is. Alright, then I got to a classic, a murder mystery from an author we've all heard of, and that is Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. This is book 4 of the Hercule Poirot series. So in this one, we're following a doctor, and his point of view is showing us this mystery where there is a death, and then shortly after, Roger Ackroyd is murdered. There's a lot of different things going on to do with money and some blackmail and some stinginess on the behalf of the murdered man, and as well as several romances and things like that going on. But Hercule Poirot is in the village. He's recently moved in, and so he is hired to also look into this murder. It would have been a locked room scenario, but the window was open, so it's not so much a locked room. But yes, you have different people went and visited the victim before he died, and they may not have all been friendly visits. Now, several reviews did say that you will never ever guess the murderer. It's like, wow, what a plot twist and all that sort of stuff. However, you know that as soon as somebody says you will never guess the murderer, what will I go and do? Most of the time I will pick the murderer within the first 30% or so. And it happened again. I think part of it is because everyone says you won't guess it. And so my mind is instantly going to all the scenarios it could possibly think of. And then because you're already thinking and suspecting certain things that are out of the norm, you see all the clues for it. And therefore, it wasn't a big plot twist. I was intrigued to see how the murderer did it and why the murderer did it. There were definitely clues. And so I kind of was just listening, but I did already have my suspicious person in mind, and I never went outside of that suspicion. So all the red herrings and that didn't work on me because I saw them for what they were, and it kind of just backed up my already suspicion. and it's meant to be one of Agatha Christie's most famous plot twists and favourite plot twists. However, because I already suspected it, it wasn't much of a big deal to me. So I ended up giving it a 3.5 just because I already figured it out. And so as you go through, if you've already figured it out or already have that suspicion, everything just backs up what you already suspect. Unfortunately, my intuition did make it less exciting. So yeah, I gave it a 3.5. I can see why people enjoy it if they don't get it right away, because the plot twist is, it's a plot twist. I will try other Agatha Christie's though. I think Mum has a whole bunch of them. I don't think they're all Poirot. I probably Miss Marples or something. Anyway, we have a whole collection from my nana, so I might dig into them. I don't know which ones we have, but we have them. So I might start some of them and see whether I can figure those ones out. But yeah, unfortunately, for all there, you'll never figure it out. I figured it pretty much instantly. So what can I say? It takes some of the fun out of it when you already know. Which brings us to our final two books. We're going to pick up the first book I read this month, which is The Villainess is a Marionette. This is volume 2, and this is by Manggle. The original story is by Hanirim. I actually read volume 1 before I started on volume 2, but I have reviewed volume 1 before, so we're not going to go into that. But I did refresh my mind before going into this one. In this one, we are following Kiana, who is a villainess. Or is she? In the first time round, she is manipulated by her brother. She helps him onto the throne and then is subsequently killed when she no longer has a purpose. So the princess begins at the start of the story. And so this is our Duke, who is our male lead. So Kiana wants to rearrange everything. She wants to take some power for herself. She does still work with her brother, but it's more as she's using him now. She is making sure that he is in his place in a kind of manipulative way. She pretends that she's supporting him, but at the same time, she has the reins now. She is the one with the puppet strings attached to him, and a lot of other people, because there are a lot of political intrigue moments in this one, a lot of movements and allies she's building, and one of those allies might be this little Duke man. And she also has to deal with like different spies and that sort of thing in the castle, of course. However, despite all her maneuverings, there are certain people that are catching on to her cunningness. She's not quite as under the radar anymore. She's up to something, but she also does it quite slyly. So not everyone has caught on, but some people have, so she has to be wary of those ones. And because of that, I love our main character because she has some guts to her, she has some drive, and I love that for her. I also like the Duke, of course. He's kind of sweet. He doesn't know what's going on, but he's pretends to be smart, but is he just going to be a little puppy? Because I think this Duke, again, doesn't want to get married, but she's arranging for him to have candidates to get married to. He starts out being very wary of the princess, of course, but he is getting won over and he is starting to have a bit of jealousy, just a little smidge, and he doesn't know why, and we all know why, but he doesn't know why he's suddenly feeling a bit upset about her attaching herself to other people, becoming more popular and everything. And also the brother is still being a bit of a creep, I must admit. Of course, the art is gorgeous, and I am intrigued to see whether Kiana stays strong and improves in that aspect, or whether she sort of goes down into the heroine in need of rescue zone. I find quite a few manhwas, which are Korean comics, sometimes they have the girl start off really strong and smart, but then she still slips into the in need of a rescue, or just completely getting ripped apart by the bad guys, and I don't enjoy that in books, but I'm hoping Kiana is not one of those lasses. Most of the series I have, they aren't, but I haven't read this one at all, other than these two films. So I'm just hoping it doesn't slip into that. So I gave it a 4.5 stars. It was fun. I am enjoying it, so I will continue to read the series. I got in volume 3, and I think that's all that's out at the moment, so I won't be able to go any further into seeing whether I enjoy that series until the other ones come out. Of course, there is the web version that I could go on if I really wanted to read on, but sometimes I like to leave things for the physical volumes if they are releasing. That is, The Villainess is a Marionette, a 4.5 stars. Alright, the final book we have is Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. This is volume 2, and this is by singNsong, which is a married couple author duo. So in this one, we are following Kim Dokja. And Kim Dokja, he is the sole, well, he's not the sole reader. There have been other readers of this online web novel, but they only reached this certain point. He is the only one that reached the end of this web novel. He was pretty much the lone reader for a lot of chapters, and he finished the novel. So when the world ends up warping and he begins at the beginning of this web novel that he's read, he has these special abilities that others don't have because he knows the plot of the book, and so he has certain advantages. But he uses that to collect a team because the world warps in an apocalyptic kind of death game scenario. So there are these goblins, they set zones, and they set a quest for the people in the zones. The very first one is to pretty much kill. And so everyone has to kill in order to pass the zone. Otherwise, if they do not, unfortunately, they are killed anyway. They are dead. So it is a very gruesome sort of lit RPG thing, but because we're following a character who is overpowered, who knows what's happening, it does slip into more game mode, and only the bad guys are getting killed off, really. And so we have Kim Dokja collecting these allies and these groups in order to protect them, and also gain his own abilities and different things. He actually runs into the main character and is kind of twisting the main character as well and trying to get him to survive, because it relies on the main character surviving to the end. That is how they will survive, is if this main character also survives. However, of course, the main character hates Kim Dokja because he's like, what are you? And why are you constantly around? And you're suspicious because you know me and you know weird things. And so it's very chaotic, but also Kim Dokja always finds a way out. So it's not stressful. It is gory, of course, because it is death games with these little goblin creatures. However, there are also constellations which sponsor the players or the people that they think are the strongest and will survive these different games and scenarios. And so a lot of constellations are interested in Kim Dokja, but he is not interested in them. Oh, this is volume 3. I was saying volume 2. No, it's volume 3. I was going to say, it feels a bit too advanced for just one novel going by. This is volume 3. And so in this one, we have him continuing this capture the flag kind of styled game, and he is coming in contact with these other flag bearers, and they are based, or the constellations that support them are based off Korean figures, Korean war generals and that sort of thing. So a bit of it was lost on me because I just don't know the history of any of these Korean figures, and it was a lot of these different back and forth. So I feel like I would have gotten more out of it if I did know that, but at the same time I still felt it was informative enough that you got the gist and that you could follow along without being like, I have no clue what any of this means. So it is a vibe. You're just vibing with Dokja as he collects his crew and he protects them, and he is a nice character to follow because he does care about his crew. I'm also reading Solo Leveling, and it feels like he's more a solo leveler, whereas in this one he does have a team, so he has a bit more heart to him, which I'm enjoying. I love a found family group vibe. So I gave this volume of Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, volume 3, a 4 stars. I had fun. Again, it is gory, lots of death, bit Hunger Games-esque, but I've never read the Hunger Games, but this is easier because I know the main character is going to win at everything. I don't like reading death games unless I know that the main character is just gonna win and beat everything anyway, and so there might be some death of main characters at some point, but most of the time our main character will win. It puts me at ease. I can only survive those things if it has spoilers, and this is pretty much a spoiler because you know he's got this reader's viewpoint, so he's got it in hand. You don't have to worry about it. And I think that's a wrap on all my reading for the month, the 9 books. So once more into the read, shall we? In order this time of them reads because I'm not going through the whole thing. Alright, so the first book I read was The Villainess is a Marionette, Volume 2. The art is by Manggle and the story is by Hanirim. This is a historical fantasy romance manhwa. And I gave it a 4.5 stars. Then I read Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, Volume 3 by singNsong. And this is a thriller lit RPG Korean light novel. And I gave this volume a 4 stars. Then we have On Tide Mill Lane by Melissa Wiley. This is book 2 in the Charlotte Years of the Little House prequel series. And this is a middle grade historical fiction. And I gave this volume a 4 stars. Then we had By the Shores of Silver Lake, which is book 5 of the Little House series by Laura Ingalls Wilder. This is also a historical semi-fiction. It's a combination of real stories with a bit of a fictional element to it. And it is also middle grade. And I gave it a 4 stars. Then I read The Fur Trader's Lady by Gabrielle Meyer. This is book 1 in the Ladies of the Wilderness series. It is a historical romance. And I gave it a 2.5 stars. Then I read The Between-Worlds B&B by Amy Mae Baxter. This is a cozy fantasy romance, and I gave it a 4 stars. Then we had Anne of Ingleside by L.M. Montgomery. This is a classic historical fiction, and I gave it a 4.5 star. This is book 6 in the Anne of Green Gables series. Then I read Lord of the Mysteries, The Clown Part 2 by Cuttlefish That Loves Diving. This is a thriller, mystery, isekai, steampunk, historical fantasy, supernatural, all the tags series, and I gave it a 4 stars. Then I read The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. This is a murder mystery, and I gave it a 3.5 stars. And that is our wrap on all the books I read during July. Let me know if you had any favorite reads this month or in the month of July, and whether you're looking forward to any books, if you've read any of these, what your thoughts of them were. I shall see you all in my next video, and until then, peace.
T26